Jaun Andreak, arratsaldeon eta ongi etorriak denak.
Good afternoon. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the press conference of Kalebegiak of the film and special project Kalebegiak. Okay, to start and to get to know what the project is all about, we have a few words by the General Director of the Cultural Capital of San Sebastian.
Europako kultur hiriburua izate.
Good afternoon. Donostia, apart from being the European Cultural Capital, is also the capital of cinema and films. And as we're in charge of the European Cultural Capital, we had to provide something that was made the grade vis-a-vis the International Film Festival San Sebastian. And what we're presenting today is precisely a large project. It's an ensemble piece, as you can see, where we manifest the concentration of talent that this city is capable to get together vis-a-vis films. Not only great actors, but also directors and crews that have formed part of this project, hundreds of people, enormous amount of people that have got involved in this production that we've carried out jointly with Moriarty and that will be screened in the Anoeta Velodrome this afternoon with all of the tickets. It's sold out. The Cultural for Conviviality, which is the title of our cultural capital, we want to make this conviviality and the protagonism of it through a production and through a film, which makes the development of film progress. So therefore we've made an ensemble piece with 12 small films that make up a mosaic of a polyhedric city, where going all the way from the bay of the city, we're going to see other sides of the city that are perhaps unknown for local people as well as for visitors. And as I was saying, another one of the most important elements in our project is to not only have great directors who we've got on both sides of me, but also other people who are less known, and to provide opportunities to new talent and new careers. This film, this is well conjugated, extraordinarily well, with a mixture of great professionals that have long careers and other young people who but all are complemented and they appear jointly in this significant project. That's all I would like to say, apart from there is a lot of talent behind me and on both sides of me, so therefore they're open to any questions you want to ask. We'd just like to say that apart from the public screening and the premiere of the film this evening in San Sebastian, the initial presentations at the films theaters for the audience in general, not only in San Sebastian, also in Bilbao, Pamplona, Vitoria, and Logroño. On the 14th of October, we premiered in film theaters, and there are several festivals. We'll travel to Barcelona and Madrid and other Spanish capitals. As I was saying, there are many people with a lot of talent surrounding me, and they're open to any questions you want to ask. If you would like to ask anything, please do so. Before we start with the questions, it's a large project, big and varied talent. Let's talk about the list of them. Gracia Querejeta is going to Imanol Uribe, Malia Lorza, Isabel Elguera, Iñaki Camacho, Telmo Esnal, Becain Irigoyen, Julio Medem, Asier Altuna, Borja Cobeaga, Maider Fernández Iriarte, Inco Martín Mancisidor, and of course the actors Marta Artura, Javi Tolosa, Alfonso Torregrosa, Miren Iberguren, Cándido Uranga, Bárbara Goenaga, Ramón Aguirre, Xavier Perurena, and Paco Sagarzazu, and of course the directors of the project as a whole. We want to say hello to Michel Castambique and Jorge Gil. And of course, we should not leave outside I don't know where each of them are, but what I would like to say, especially hello to the director of the 12,000, Xavier Paya, who's with us here today as well. I think he's there. And so if you deem pertinent, we can start the questions. I would like to say that perhaps they're not with us today, but they also form part of this. Mario Carparsoro and Luisa Verdejo, and someone else, Steven Gallinaga, who hasn't been able to turn up, couldn't turn up here and form part of this panel. A question over here on the left. Hi, good afternoon. How do you think it will be received by the people in San Sebastian, this film Kalebegiak? How do you think it will be received by the audience this afternoon between the audiences? How do you think? It's a question open for everyone, or can anyone answer? Well, I'm going to speak on behalf of the direction of this project. We thank how the film has been received. I personally didn't expect the Velodrome to be sold out, and that means that there does exist an interest vis-a-vis this project within the city, as I said, and I hope that when it's premiered and screened in commercial theaters, we hope that flame will continue to not go out, and I hope, and I've said in other interviews, that as it's a pluralistic and a diverse film with all different subjects addressed in a different way, any viewer or anyone in the audience can find their own film within it. So therefore, and I hope that today works well, and from now on people will be encouraged to go and see them at film theaters when it's premiered, and let's hope people are happy when they leave the Velodrome this evening. I would like to say that I'm convinced that everyone who sees the film is going to see that it's a high quality project done with a lot of tenderness and I insist a lot of talent, and there will be other people that feel more identified than others, so therefore it's quite normal in a collective project of this nature that, as we've mentioned before, there are 12 different ways of understanding the city and that background idea that's underlying, which is that of conviviality and living together. Any further questions?
Barkatu, bai, nik gauza bat bai gehituko nuke.
I would like to add something else. As we're in front of the media, and this could be a great heading, and I would say, ask myself, 3,000 tickets have been sold. It's been sold out at the Velodrome, but I don't know amongst those who are there who have seen some of the works of all of the authors. We have the different styles of directing of all the people here today. I'm completely convinced that at least they would like one of the films, and I'm sure that they will discover some new perspective on the city. If this project manages to achieve this, if it manages to extend or create a new audience and audiences within the film, that we have fulfilled another objective with this project. Here, the faces that you can see amongst us all today, these are new, but they are well known, but the innovation is that they've come together, all of them together. I'm not too sure whether this can ever happen, and that so much collaboration in one project can be carried out with so many people. And when we're at the Velodrome, I've got a couple of questions in mind as regards to how people are going to like, or whether people will applaud, and that's what this project is seeking. And secondly, also, how many people are going to think, well, okay, well, the work that these people have done is interesting. Let's see if they've done anything else. They've not didn't know what they were directing, were they working in animation, or how much have they progressed in other fields of directing films. Here's a question here in the front. What, Jorge Gil, what the directors told you, everyone's worked independently, not knowing what the rest have done. Jorge Gil, what did you know? We didn't know what the ensemble piece was going to look like. What do they think once they've seen the film? Well, this is going to sound quite curious, but I think this is one of the most multitudinary press conferences in the film, more full of people that have not seen the film. So therefore, due to the film has taken a year. It's taken a long time to finish. The last film was shot at the end of June, July. We finished post-production and editing 4 days ago. And so therefore, I think there are 5 people that have seen the entire film. and the rest have only seen their shorts or they've seen maybe two, but they can't really answer your question, the truth be said, because they haven't seen the whole thing. So I imagine they'll feel very pleased tonight when the time arrives, but for the time being, that's another mystery of Kalebegiak, which has been best kept. Yes, but I would like to say that I think that we've all participated, thinking there were minds thinking in the background and knowing what we're doing. This macro project, which at the end of the day ends up being a film, quite a particular or peculiar film, but we've thought, how can you make a film as of all of these little pieces and all of these more or less thinking minds that we, the Kalebegiak directors and screenwriters are. That's what the feeling we have, not that it was going to be a sort of a little unwashed sort of puzzle, but it was going to make up, in one way or another, it's going to turn into a film. Thank you very much for your kind words. Yes, I'm sure it is. That's the intention, undoubtedly. I think beyond what these landmarks are, perhaps the press conference, which is the most multitudinary and undoubtedly in which more directors have not seen the film, the entire film. Apart from that, I think that we're going to manage that it will become the film and where more directors will stay behind to watch the film. That's going to be great. Directors and actors, the screenwriters, therefore quite often we do everything in the Cinemaldi, in the film festival, to have them stick around so they can participate in interviews and activities after the film has been screened. But in this screening, we're going to have them all in the front line. So therefore, I think that's a landmark, which I think is believed to be very positive too. Please, could you explain how you distributed the subject matter? That is to say, was everyone was free to choose all of a sudden one objective for their short film, or whether you had made a proposal of issues that they chose, or I don't know. Well, they were absolutely free, and that is to say, we thought, Jorge and myself, I thought it was too daring and too bold, apart from asking them to be with us and to even impose a subject matter for their film. But I think each of them should contribute their point of view, their style and their tone. That's the wealth of it, that variety. That's that chaos or anarchy, really. At no time did we suggest anything. I think that one of the directors, at the end, we told him, well, I was handing out the script at the end, if there wasn't a beach, it would be really great. If there wasn't a beach, because we've got a lot of beaches, that would have been great. But I think that's the only thing. But what we wanted was all the contrary. We wanted each of them to show us their vision, their way of seeing, and they want to tell their story, end of the day. But the story is, when choosing the directors, men and women directors, the choice determines the film that you're looking for, and the choice was always to seek the greatest possible diversity as regards to different styles and language used in cinema. And I think that at the end of the day in the film is clearly reflected in the sense that we've fulfilled what we were seeking, as each spectator and audience can find their own short film in the film, and I'm sure that'll happen. That's what we're thinking anyway. Further questions? I'd like to know, to make up that mosaic, the order, is there any reasoning behind the order of the films? I see it, I've seen it, it starts very powerfully and it ends up, the audience leaves with a good feeling and thinking a lot about the short films that you see in the film. Yes, that's the flavor that's left in your mouth at the end of the day after seeing the film. Well, we didn't discuss this too much, did we, Mitchell, when we stuck the films, when we edited the films together? I think there was quite a lot of consensus here. But as you mentioned, the beginning of the film, just simply without spoiling it, I think that our intention was to transmit to the audience, because stemming from an environment that he or she may know, in the audience, a person may know, to pervert to that image, that is to say, turn it around, turn it on its head. And the message that we were launching or transmitting there was, be careful, you're not going to find exactly what you are probably expecting in this film. This film, anything can happen, and as of that moment, I think the audience or the people in the audience enter into the game, because at the end of the day, the film is a game that goes from documentary to fiction to animation, and it's a constant up and down, so therefore ride, so therefore that's the way I think we should transmit it to the audience. Mitchell, do I agree with what I say? Yes, yeah, to set the tone, the first short gives the tone of what you can expect later. I haven't seen it. Okay, well, shut up. They don't want to know. They don't want the spoil. They want it to be, no spoilers, okay? They haven't seen the film completely, or the whole film. Any further questions in the room?
Bueno, como vemos.
Hi, good afternoon. As we see amongst the directors and actors, there are well-known and some unknown or lesser-known names. I would like to know on the technical side of things whether you've also mixed up between well-known and lesser-known people. That's a photography and music and so on. Thank you very much for the question, please. That's very important. Apart from the names of the directors and actors who are with us here today, it's quite obvious that at a local level, and especially beyond what is local, we have technicians, first-class technicians. So therefore, we got in touch with DOPs, directors of photography, who work in the Basque Country and who work abroad and who work at an international level, with musicians, with production directors. That is to say, we wanted the crew, the team in the film to show that level of technical crews that we have, and to all to work together. So what we tried, and I think we've achieved this quite well, is to force extraordinary meetings, so to speak, and we directors to not work with their normal DOP, that is to say, to work with a musician or with their scriptwriter, and they were prepared to do this. That is to say, we want to thank infinitely the generosity of all the directors, actors, and technical crew that not only wanted to shoot in special conditions in 3 days and so on and so forth, but to accept that game, to be able to work with first-level technicians with whom they'd never played before, but worked before, and to allow them to work with them. And in those shooting, for example, some of the people, new students from Garrochene, for example, which in some cases have their first short was meritorious in the second, and they worked as assistants in these other shorts. So therefore, in that sense, in that nuance, we've also intervened. You'll see in the credits that the big, well-known technical crew, but due to calendar, because some other two didn't turn up, but all the rest, they're all in the credits. Any further questions?
I'd
like to ask Pablo whether you're satisfied with the result, and I'm not too sure whether it was an objective that it reflected the values of 2016 or the way in which the film has been made. I think I mentioned, yes, I am very satisfied. The truth is, I think it's a celebration which manifests a great amount of talent that we've been able to get together, the production company and the foundation. But as regards to the values, as I said before, when we asked people to do their projects, there was a lot of freedom. And in that sense, there wasn't any condition that they should address the premises with which we work in the European cultural capital. But the objectives have been achieved at a very different level. Mitchell was just mentioning a moment ago, conviviality between well-known and younger directors, Musikeme schools with well-known and consecrated directors, a plurality of voices, style-wise voices. The issues addressed, as Jorge said, it starts from the first film, and without spoiling it, how it subverts the image that we have of the city, and say, let's focus upon another way of looking at the city. So that, from my point of view, that's 100% a European capital. We're not only going to talk about the surface. Let's look at new places, new paths, new journeys in an ensemble piece. And as you can see here, the atmosphere is extraordinary, and the work by the producers and directors of the project has been exceptional, I would say, or should be highlighted, that is, and I think I'm talking on behalf of the foundation. We are very satisfied. Question back there. Could the directors talk about what was it like that about working with well-known people, first-class people and people who are just starting out in films, because the directors are the ones that see how they've worked and how the process has evolved. Directors, your turn. Well, the experience has been very positive in my case. I worked with a scriptwriter, relatively a novel scriptwriter, and the collaboration was great. He signs as a scriptwriter of the film completely because he deserves it, and the work was really good. In my case, I worked with someone in the crew, technically that I've worked with before, but the novel came from the scriptwriter, screenplay writer, and the another technical crew. That formed part of the package. We all knew that we were going to collaborate with some people that are well known, like, for example, Kalebegiak. I don't remember, many years ago, and we got together again in this project, and then we also knew that we were going to collaborate and work with people who were practically, it was their first job in a film. So therefore, in that sense, I think that Kalebegiak has a training sort of intention behind it, and also teaching, and I think this is very good to have this collaboration between new people and people who are a bit more expert. I think it's a good idea to hand the baton on to new people so that they can have their opportunity and they start to pave their way from the outset, from this initiation. It was important. The pavement to go to make it to Santiago de Compostela is all well and good, but the journey is good, how it's being carried out, and fulfilling all expectations. And as Imanol, a screenwriter, Gracia, a musician, Julio, a DOP, a musician, and all of the rest of the cases, and everyone, each and every one, that was a condition, sine qua non, a condition, but nevertheless, it has been complied to, it has been fulfilled, and I believe that what has come to us as the Arrochene professors, teachers, Arrochene, where Jorge and I teach at the Cultural Center, we give cinema films, people go to train there at the film school. We have always wanted it to be that way, that moment in which you can go from teaching and do shorts, which are more or less amateur as a total, and then to grow, to be able to be in a professional shoot with professionals who can teach you, and where you've got to be, and what they've transmitted from the directors of production and the directors, the attitude of the students in Arrochena was spectacular in each and every case. So therefore, we are especially proud of this. Any further questions? How you did collaborate with the extras that participated in your shorts? Well, I had the one that had a lot of people in it. It seems the presentation of the Donostiaria Orfeon, that's the choir of San Sebastian, presents a film. Well, it was done here in El Cursan. The streets had to be full. There had to be a lot of viewers due to the action that takes place. And in that sense, it was spectacular because we called a lot of people through 2016 and through the cultural capital, because we wanted to create a typical Sunday in the Torreola promenade, and it was with good weather. We know that it's not the Sahara Desert. It requires people on a Sunday. So therefore, in that sense, from Miquel Huancalo and all the production team doing all of the efforts, so that so therefore the direction in the film moved all over the place, and many people in San Sebastian, voluntarily coordinated by these volunteers in San Sebastian in 2016, they not only figurated or appeared, but they directed people and told them where to go. So therefore, you've got a person who has turned up on Sunday to walk 26 times from 9 o'clock in the morning to 1 p.m. to walk. How can I not thank that person? He's doing exactly the same thing. He runs into the same toll on the pavement, because otherwise, if without the help of these extras, we wouldn't have been able to make the film. Yes. As an extra, I had a very special presence, which is a whale. We wanted to understand it with the blue from San Sebastian and with a blue whale aesthetically as well. And then, of course, obviously, I've had 9 people rowing, and one of them's an actor who's over there, Xavier Perurena. The rest were real rowers who were professional rowers and spent 3 days sitting on their boat, holding onto their oar to row. We made the film, and you can imagine, on the stern of one of these boats, rowboats. We started outside the boat with an auxiliary boat, but then we got on to shoot next to Marta Etura with Javi Tolosa and Javier and John, the little boy. Everyone, all of a sudden, it's a very small cosmos, but surrounded by sea. And underneath us is the whale, which is great. So therefore, in that sense, I can say that it's, for me, their collaboration, and I wanted of the rowers, that is to say, professional rowers, they were completely in favor, and they were glad, they were very happy to be there, seeing what they were offering, which was to do something was very complicated. I've been very involved, one of the most involved films, if we look at it with the amount of time to make this film in 3 days, I thought was going to be something incredible to be finished off, but everyone would take a full advantage that it was marvelously being produced. I was very surprised and fascinated at the same time that a project of this, which is very difficult and very delicate to produce, is 1 year and a little, or 1 year and 4 months or 5 months. If you shoot these 12 small stories, it's fascinating, it's marvelous, and it requires to have a lot of capacity to organize and also a lot of will to do so. And I want to thank this. I saw it myself, and I want people to know this. So therefore, it is true. If we're talking about, well, I hate this stool because I'm falling down. I lose concentration. But I felt very good. And I'm telling you my feelings, and it was like going back to my origins, because I was shooting here in San Sebastian. I had been since the Red Line. I hadn't shot a film here. And then being able to have a mixed type of crew, not my regular crew. It was only my assistant director. The rest were from people from here. Some had experience, some had very little experience. And I must say that, to a certain extent, shooting a lot of young people, a lot of people with little experience, doing one shot after another, has meant that they have come to my shot with a certain amount of experience. So therefore, they've created a certain live school for them, which is always very interesting. The truth is, I enjoyed the experience very much, and I feel very proud of forming part of this film. Okay. To answer the question of the extras, and because it's something which is not common within a film, I want to remind you that at the beginning, when they started to work on the film, a casting audition in front of the Foundation 2016 offers, we selected people so that whoever wanted to participate could participate, or at least come along, and then subsequent casting was done. In the case of Borja, was very interesting to make visible the importance of volunteers and the work they do, in the work that they carry out in this cultural European capital of. And there's a space for volunteers where the volunteers turn up, those that have been registered in our foundation, and people from the projects come along and ask us why do they need their help, what they can offer to do as volunteers. And that was the case in which Borja came to that area, and firsthand he could see the people who want to participate, which is exactly what he wanted to do. How was he going to make them walk backwards and forwards on the bridge? And I know that these were specific cases, quite specific cases, that reflect, shall we say, the importance of those extras that participated. Further questions?
Gehiago? Beste galderarik?
No further questions. I would like to ask you all, this briefing, this proposal to make the film, you receive it, and what do you do? How do you do that creative work and that seeking a surprise within each of your different projects? 2016 is being a cinemaldi where the surprise effect is very important in the feedback of the audience. As I said, when you see a film, it's not what you expected. And we see that the surprise factor is, and there's a positive reaction, and people are applauding more than ever. How did you address, each of you, without bearing in mind that there are other 11 directors preparing a project? How can you come to tell a story about San Sebastian and to surprise? My idea was not to surprise. I don't think anyone wanted to surprise anyone. If one's surprised, but I don't think a priori one has to address the issue of surprising. We have to feel comfortable with the story that you're telling, I think, don't you think? And then if you may surprise, you may not surprise, but to surprise from the outset, I don't think that the surprise factor is something which is necessarily good nor bad, but that's the thing. I'm not saying how original it was, you know, the originality. Try to be original vis-a-vis the others. I haven't seen the whole film, so it's very difficult to give you an opinion or to talk about this. But in the case of my short film, I'm not too sure whether it's too original. Perhaps it's very original within the environment of San Sebastian, because I was not going to talk about the particularities or the differences that the city has, but I was going to tell how universal the city is, a place in where things take place that also occur in other places, at least in the Western world. So therefore, it all depends that how people will take it, but without knowing the entire project, it's very difficult to make any source of assessment. You must, those that of you who have seen it should say something. What we didn't, wasn't a sine qua non condition, for example, within the archetype of feature films that are made with shorts, the surprise is indisputable, necessary, and it forms part of the game. There's 12 different short films, no matter how you articulate them with a certain sense in mind. One is going to be original with the previous one, it's going to misconcert you, and so on and so forth. That feeling is generated. You don't expect what's going to come along next. In that sense, I think it has that component that you say. But I think, like Gracia said, I wasn't a director here, but I understood everyone told the story that they wanted to tell before, beyond it being surprising or not. Surprising is that we have people who make films with 4 letters, 4 big capital letters. Image and emotion are elements that are constant in their filmography. That's why they're here today. So therefore, that's where the originality, that's what I address apart from the format itself. I think the surprise is the proposal in itself. That's my point of view. Anyone else want to add anything on the panel? Further questions?
A mí sí me gustaría saber un poco los directores noveles,
Iñaki, Maider, the new directors, and Bigain, for example. How have you lived this experience? That is to say, some of you have got a bit of experience, and some of you have got none. But what can you tell us? What was your experience? How did you experience all of this? Well, I think that in the case of Maider and myself, the contrary to Imanola Gracia, for example, they were new directors, and we were all the contrary. We were new directors with more experienced technical crew. We, for example, I never worked with an editor, and that was a great learning process. And then the luxury of being able to work with means, because it's not very common in our case. We always work in a very homemade fashion, and I think that's what I would highlight, to be able to work for the first time with more people and more technical means, and to learn from the experience of professionals who have a longer career than us in filmmaking, right? Well, you give the microphone, I'll tell you, sir. Well, on the one hand, there was a bit of self-pressure of making the grade vis-a-vis these names and to take full advantage of this occasion, and then a luxury to be able to have all the means available and professionals working with you. When I got together with Mikel and Michel for the first day, and they said, well, okay, who have you thought for the main actor? I said, well, director Barbara Goenaga. And they said, okay, let's try it. And normally you're making shorts and you call friends to do the work. In some cases you can try to convince someone, but you shouldn't think about calling. You've got production people who are concerned about everything for it to work. DOP, for example, they said after that question, well, You're going to have the DOP of the Amantes del Círculo Polar, the art director of the Mar de Muerta. That is to say, what was marvelous for me, really. Experienced professionals. I agree with what they're saying. I agree with what they were saying. That is to say, it's a real luxury. And what they were saying was to work with the means that you're not used to working with, and with I've been 10 years working on TV. It's got nothing to do with when you do a project of this nature vis-a-vis what we do on TV. That is, we all know everything goes very quickly. Here we haven't had much time either, but it was something completely different, or something different, shall we say, better said. And so I coincide with what my colleagues have said beforehand. Yes. Further questions?
Yo creo que hay muchas expectativas para...
I think there's great expectations of wanting to see the film. Perhaps we could... Someone's a bit nervous, I can see, to go and see the film, so... Miren is in a hurry. Miren wants to say something. I think that perhaps we can do a second round after having seen it and after have different points of view upon the project as a whole. I'm not too sure whether it'll be as official as this, but I'm sure that they'll see us during the film festival. So if you see us, please come up and ask us what we thought of it once we've seen it entirely. Thank you very much for all of the people who have attended, to all of the participants as well, those that are here and those that aren't, obviously to all of your extras as well, and volunteers of Biuta, I must say. And for example, I invite you to see the film, whether today's screening, this evening's screening, or in the commercial theaters, and let's hope that this type of collaboration and ensemble piece can bring about many more projects and much more creativity and creation with San Sebastian as the central subject, or film as the central subject. Thank you very much.